Video of how to install, not how to, but just some tips on installing the stand on the Triumph Bonneville T100. So once you have the stand kit, it's a good idea to download the instructions. They don't come with the actual stand, so download the instructions, and it's quite straightforward. Just follow them through as you should. That's what I've done here is I've installed the stand. The stand is installed at the moment, it's right here, but what I've done is when you get to this part over here, which is step 11, you're required to hook it in to the stand, and then the other end fits into a bolt which you put in on step 1. Now the tension on this spring is so much, it's so difficult to pull the spring because there's so little room in here, and you've got to try to get it onto a bolt which is right down in there, and there's just not enough room for your hands and everything. So what I've done for now is I've just used a tie here, and I've tied it to the, you can see here, tied it to the actual stand, and I've just made it here so the stand sits up. This is when the spring is its most relaxed and there's the least amount of tension on it. And what I've done is in this bracket over here, I was using this hook and hooking it into there and pulling it while with my hand, I had a glove on my hand, I was pushing it from here. Now I managed to get it as far as near the bolt, but I just couldn't put it on the bolt because this tip was taking quite a lot of room too. This hole is not that big, there's not enough room for this tip and fitting it onto the bolt. So what I did is, here I have it here, I actually spray painted it black as well because it actually comes in a shiny silver, and it wouldn't look good, in my opinion it doesn't look good there, just a shiny silver. So I spray painted it black. But what I did is over here, the paint is still drying, but over here I drilled a tiny little hole right there, which I'm going to use, which I'm going to use like this and pull it to get this end onto the actual nut. So that's what stage I'm at the moment. I went through quite a lot of drill bits, so your regular steel drill bit is not going to work. I would just simply went out and bought some cobalt drill tip, and that's a 332 inch hole that I drilled, which is enough for me to get that hook in. So once that's done, it's still drying at the moment, but once that's done I should be able to get it on there, and it should work. But one thing to mention is when you're doing that is, for now, just remove the stoppers. If you see here, there's some stoppers. I removed the stopper just so that the stand would go that little bit higher for now while I'm installing the spring, and so that means there's less tension on the spring. I can always put the stoppers in later on, but that's just what I found was just so that the stand goes higher up, putting less tension. And so a quick update. I've got the springs done, but that hole I drilled, that's not there's no need to do that. That's not a helpful technique. The way I did it was, there's two springs here. What you want to do is, first of all, take the um, is with the springs, there's an outer spring and an inner spring. So what you want to do is hook it up, connect it to this center piece here, connect it to the center piece, and connect the piece to the stand, and then what you want to do is connect the two front ones to the piece here. Then at the rear, just connect the outer one. Just connect the outer spring to the rear one, but in the center, connect the two. Then pull it and hook it to the place where this bracket is supposed to be connected to. That makes it much easier because you're only having to pull on one spring rather than two springs. Then what you want to do, you just have one hook left to do, which is here, which is the inner spring. So you pull the inner spring through, pull the inner spring, and then connect the inner spring to this bracket here. And that is so much easier because you're then only having to stretch one spring at a time. I wish that was somewhere in a manual or somewhere, because that made it so much easier when I did it with that technique, rather than having to pull both springs at the same time. So what you want to do is, just to go over that again, is hook it all up as it's in the instruction manual. So connect the two springs to the smaller hole here in this bracket, connect it to the stand, and then pull it forward. What I did is, because I had that hole there anyway, is I just used a zip tie, put that zip tie in the hole, and then sort of clipped it forward. But you don't need to do that. It's pretty easy to do because you just have the tension on the one spring. And then over here you just have one more spring left to connect, and then you pull it and connect that spring. Now what I did is, because it was quite tricky to get them into the hole, so what I did is, with a pair of pliers, I just slightly pulled these out on both sides, just so that it'd be easier to put the springs in. And then once they were in, I just, with the pliers, pressed it again. You don't want to do it too much because you don't want to make these fragile, especially because they're going to be holding so much weight and tension. So you don't want to pull them out too much or something, just slightly, which makes it a little bit easier, and that's what I did.